Guys. So sorry. So we're now up and live again. The previous live stream that we just tried to do, Facebook gave us a ton of issues. It didn't work at all. But now we should be up again. Hopefully this time around I don't have a weird Kermit voice, because I know the last stream that I did on my phone, it gave me a lot of really strange audio distortions. So I'm hoping that that's not happening this time around. Let me know if you can see me and hear me okay. And we're going to get set up and started. And how great are you guys? You actually waited for us. You're all still here. How amazing is that? So, for anybody who's watching this on the replay, we had some trouble with Facebook, but we're now up and running again. And we're going to be talking to Jamie Samland. So, well, I'm going to let Jamie introduce himself properly. But this is a client of ours who's successfully written and self-published 5 fantasy novels, and has actually managed to build a little audience around his work as well. So some of you are wondering, how did he do that? Anything that I can learn from somebody who's a few steps ahead of me in the process, then let me bring Jamie on now and talk about that. You'll probably see my image stretch out if you're watching this on the replay.
All right.
All right. Are we good? Is the connection stable? Jamie, hi.
Hello. Hey, Max.
Hey, all right.
Hello, everyone.
All right, significantly better now. We had some tech headaches there. It's awesome to see you, and probably nice for everybody in the group to meet you as well. It's always interesting to see some of the people that we're working with privately. Do you want to give yourself like a quick intro? Who are you?
Yeah, so I'm Jamie Samland. My full-time job, I'm a web application developer. I am a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo.
Awesome.
I'm a cat dad. I'm a nerd, as you can see from all the art behind me here.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Great.
I got
That's
a
summary.
little hobbies.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of adjacent skills there.
Yeah.
The Taekwondo cat dad stuff definitely comes in handy. And just to give everybody a bit of background as well, what actually got you started on writing originally? Like what was the point where you said, I think I'm gonna try my hand at a novel?
Well, I kind of trace it back to I guess like 4th grade. My 4th grade teacher, we had these notebooks that had kind of like a waxy coating to them, and we were told to write in pencil, and the teacher said, but I used a pen because I wrote better. The teacher said, no, you can only write in pen once you publish a novel. So fast forward to about high school, I was writing some essentially fan fiction. Threw that out. Come college, rewrote it all, and then another 20 years later, it was actually when I was getting ready to test for first degree black belt. I thought, what other things have I wanted to do that I haven't accomplished yet? And one was a book. So I hadn't really done anything done to the manuscripts in 20 years, but I threw it all out and restarted it. And it wasn't until I was getting ready to test for my 2nd degree black belt that I actually published things. Yeah,
that's so cool, because a lot of people in the group probably have a similar feeling, like this is a bucket list item for me, you know. Like, guys, leave us a comment if you can relate to what Jamie said there about this being something that you've had on your list for a really long time, wanting to actually, you know, finish something that you could share with a real audience. And what's really cool, Jamie, the book that we helped you with, I think, is actually now your 5th one that's out in the fantasy genre, right?
Yeah. It's the 5th novel. It'll be the 6th book.
Yeah.
I have a book of short stories that I kind of forget to include sometimes.
I was just about to mention that as well. We can plug that as well. For anybody who's more of a short story fan than a fantasy fan, if you just Google Jamie Samland on Amazon, then he's got a great little short story collection there as well. So for anybody there who's thinking like, you know, it's a really daunting task to try to get a project like this finished, do you want to tell people a little bit about like the sort of stage that you were at when we first started working together?
Yeah. So, like you said, at that point, I had several books out. I just kind of developed my own process as I was doing those, which was just write whatever comes to mind, and then worry about throwing it away with you. And then I had probably about just a couple chapters of this next book already drafted, and I kind of had a vague idea of what to do. what I
Yeah.
wanted to do with it, but I didn't have. There was a lot of gaps in it still. So
Yeah.
I came with passion for wanting to do it, and I had a little bit of a schedule going. I was already spending time writing every day, or
Awesome.
but I wasn't really doing a lot in the planning process.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And so to me, it sounds like, because a lot of people here are probably thinking, I thought this was the first novel group.
Right.
And yes, normally we help people exactly like you guys who are watching, who are more like beginners, like just starting out. But of course, you know, even for Jamie at a more advanced stage, there's still a lot that you can build on, improve on, that you can learn about. I guess, Jamie, part of what like drew you to us was the fact that you had been more improvised
Mm-hmm.
with a lot with those first few novels, and so you wanted to build up or discover a process that was a bit more structured, I
That
guess.
I would say that's
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And what kind of problems were you running into with the novel that Arcanum that we worked on?
Well, the problem that I guess the biggest problem came from publishing these previous ones, where I just sort of I didn't have a process for the marketing and
Yeah,
what to do with the book when it was done. So I
yeah,
had kind of developed that sense, but I would create characters, and I would let the characters completely tell the story,
yeah.
and that's one way to do it. It's great if you're playing D&D, but when you're
Right.
writing a book, and
Yeah,
the first book I sent it to a developmental editor, and she said it's good until this point, and I think you should cut all this out. So I ended up scrapping about 60,000 words. And
right.
as I'm going through ripping all this out, it's like, ripping it from my soul, essentially.
Yeah,
I thought this was all great, and so by going through the exercises and working with you and Ben, I was able to um, have a stronger idea of what the characters were from the very beginning. I had
yeah,
all of their motivations. I knew not just this character is selfish, but I knew why they were selfish. Even if it never comes out on
yeah.
the page, you still know that. You have that little bit of iceberg of knowledge. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Does anyone else here is anyone else here aiming to write multiple books, like maybe even a series, or to someday like nudge yourself towards this being something that you do part time? If anyone feels that way, like I want to have multiple books out, let me know in the comments below, because I think one of the things that like we wanted to work on together, Jamie, originally was not just improvising and pantsing stuff out, but having something a bit more repeatable. Like, hey,
yeah,
this is my process, this is my structure. I can use these same steps every time to write more books and more books and more
mhm.
books. And for someone who wants to be an author, either part time or full time, in the long term, you need multiple books out. You're not realistically going to do that on one book, right? And so for anybody who has that goal, kind of following in Jamie's footsteps, maybe that's something that you guys can note down or that you can learn from this as well, is having more of a repeatable process instead of just guessing your way through, I suppose. So when we were working on Arcanum together,
Mhm.
what did you feel like was the most helpful thing for you about what we did?
Um, the, the moral exercise module was something that I had. Like I said, I kind of had strong characters. I knew uh, surface level what characters were going to be like, but doing the
Yes.
moral message, you are figuring out a common theme to kind of weave between all of the characters,
Yeah.
um, having them all creating a continuity of why they're all doing things in the
Yeah.
book. And then also the accountability that you get through the program. The
Yeah.
daily Zoom calls are wonderful.
Mhm.
The daily and weekly check-ins, all that. So it's kind of feels like there's someone that's pushing you along.
Yeah.
Um, and I always like I said, I would already spend a lot of time writing, but to be not just hammering away at the keyboard, but to know that I'm moving forward in the process, and
Yeah.
um, I'm able to um, uh,
Yeah, I know what you
yeah,
mean. Yeah,
word.
you're making progress. You know that what you're putting down on the page is material that's going to work,
Yeah,
not material where you're going to have to cut 60,000 words of it,
yeah.
like what happened with the first book there. Totally get that. Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And so it's actually interesting that you said the same thing that Lauren said when we interviewed Lauren a little while ago about the moral message exercises being really eye-opening, because I think a lot of writers, especially newer writers, don't really think about the book from that angle. Like, what am I trying to say to my reader? What's this story supposed to mean? And again, maybe this is a takeaway for anybody who's watching this, who's looking to learn something from Jamie's journey as well. You can lift the quality of your story if you think about what that central theme is, and what impression the reader, what feeling the reader is supposed to be left with as they go through it. What are you trying to say to your audience? That's always something that's worth contemplating. Jamie, is there anything that you want to share with people, like from working on Arcanum together, but also just from having a track record of having a bunch of books that are out? Anything that you feel like you've learned about being a writer? Something you could share?
Yeah, planning.
Yeah, right.
Planning, absolutely. I did NaNoWriMo 2021 NaNoWriMo. So the goal of that is to write the 50,000 word manuscript in 30 days. I didn't know that NaNoWriMo existed until about 4 days before November 1st. So a friend of mine says, "Hey, let's do this," and I say, "Sure." So I just pants the entire story. I had no idea what was going on. And by luck, that one turned out all right. But then, like I said, with the previous, my first book, I had to rip out so much, and then they got a little bit less as they went on. But really, with Arcanum, I didn't have to. All the scenes were usable, and actually at the end, I added scenes to it. I didn't have to rip out all this stuff and just throw it in the bin.
Exactly.
But also on that note, if you do have scenes that you really like and you need to remove them, don't delete anything. Always have another folder that you can save things off to.
Yeah.
Because who knows? I ripped scenes out of the first book and I put them into the third.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. There'll always be more projects for that idea. No, that's really valuable for people, because I think that those folks that are more inclined towards improvising. Do we have any like pantsers? Guys, like give us an emoji in the comment if you're more of a pantser, like more of an improvisational type. This can be great for discovering ideas and for getting the creative brain working. But a lot of the time, that also creates a lot of excess work further down the line, because you're going to have to go back and change things and try to fix things. And stories have a habit of kind of hardening like concrete over time. So the further you go into the process, into editing, the more difficult it is to think outside of the box and go back and make those changes. And yeah, I think especially with something big like a fantasy novel, it's better if you know where you're going. You're not going to have nearly as much work to do if you plan a little bit. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about was your decision to self-publish this. Because some people go that route. Other people are like, no, I definitely want to traditionally publish. But there's pros and cons to both paths. So what made, like, can you tell us a bit about why you made the decision to self-publish?
I get two main reasons. I'm very impatient, and I want full creative control. So I know there's this glamour and prestige about the traditional publishing, where you are selected and your book is chosen. But I also hear a lot of horror stories from other writer friends where they sent out 125 queries to agents, and they got maybe one full request and a couple partials, and then still denied. All meanwhile, that is a year has passed, and then I finished this book and I've got it in my hand here, and that feeling of having your physical book in your hand is it's hard to describe as a writer. So I'm impatient. I finish a manuscript. I want to put it out there and go on to the next thing. I don't want to just put it in a folder and wait for someone to want to buy it. And
100%.
Yeah. So and then creative control also, if you get it to an editor and they decide that let's gender swap this character and let's remove this plot, add this plot, and let's make the protagonist 16 instead of 22, and they might decide you have to make all those changes, and I don't want to do that. I already wrote the story that I want to write.
Yeah, completely understand that. And like, for anybody who's watching, who's curious about what we did with Jamie, some people who we work with do go this route. Other people, we definitely help people with the traditional route as well. But self-publishing does suit a lot of folks better, because like Jamie said, you have the creative control there. It's fully your book. If a publishing house or an editor wants you to change something and you're publishing it traditionally, you do have a say in that, but you don't have necessarily the final word in that, because you're selling them the rights. You know? Whereas with the self-published stuff, it's all yours, and that means you're also in control of the front cover, the artwork. I mean, you want to show people the front cover, Jamie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh, let
awesome.
me grab the matte one that's not glossy there.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So you can get it designed the way that you want it to look. There's a lot of creative control. It's also interesting because I think just media in general is moving more in the direction of being self-generated. You know, there's a lot of YouTube stars, and I was talking to Lauren about this. There's a lot of people who are huge on YouTube, bigger even than the traditional television programs these days. There's like there's a friend of mine who just had 1 million views on TikTok. That's 1 million people that he reached with one short form video. Compare that to like trying to get onto a radio station or something like that, and it just seems clunky and archaic. So, of course, both routes have their pros and cons, but self-publishing, you can do very well with that, and Jamie is case in point. While we got you here as well, Jamie, do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about Arcanum for anybody who's interested in fantasy or who would be curious about some of your work?
So Arcanum is a Gaslamp fantasy romance. So it's the first time that I branched out into more of the Gaslamp, which is more the Edwardian or Victorian era, not the castles and princesses. First time I've written romance also. So I was able to, one of the things that we did in the program was making sure you hit all the standard romance beats.
Romance beats, yeah.
So it is the tale of Elvan. He's a disgraced noble, and he's needs to unravel his why his mother exiled and see if he can possibly save her before the kingdom and what's left of his house just completely falls to ruin.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of magic in there, though magic is strictly outlawed.
Right.
Yeah. It was fun to create a new magic system as well. My other books all use the same thing. But the books are all related, so they're supposed to.
Yeah, that's something else that we talked about that we try to do with a lot of fantasy writers as well, trying to push for more originality in the way that you use magic systems. I think someone who's doing that really well is Brandon Sanderson. Any Sanderson fans? If you want like examples of good magic systems, good original magic systems and world building, he's doing that in an amazing way. Awesome, Jamie. Thanks for sharing a little bit about that. I mean, just for closing thoughts, what would you say to anybody who's like thinking about maybe having some help with their book? You know, they're struggling, they're wondering if it would be a good idea to get some support.
Well, like I had no training as in writing, maybe some creative writing classes in high school or college, but I didn't really know how to structure a book. But then I wrote a couple, and I can't say how well they were structured. I know the first book, The Inciting Incident, is something like 70 pages in, which
too late.
Yeah, too late. The book just starts too soon. So this was at my own pace, learning some of these steps, but I was working on the project that was what I wanted to work on. I wasn't taking a college course where I was writing some abstract things that the professor wanted me to. I was, the end product was my book. So I learned how to do the process of creating characters and the world and stringing it all together, and it's very repeatable. I have the files that I took from Arcanum, and I'm working on the next book with you guys now, and I just took all the files from Arcanum, copied them, and then changed the file name for the next book. So it's obviously repeatable.
Yeah. So for anybody who's watching who, you don't have like Jamie said, like some college degree in writing or anything like that, but you are finding it tricky to piece your story together, you would like to finish something that's solid, and you'd also like to learn some skills that you can use to write more books and more books and more books, then definitely something that we can help you with. Jamie, thanks so much for coming on with me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It was so much fun speaking with you. Where can people find you? Where can they find your book? Do you want to plug anything?
Yeah. So all my books are available on Amazon. So if you search for my last name, my last name is comes up in some things for some Swedish things. So search for Arcanum. That'll at least drop you over to my Amazon author page.
Right.
Actually, the audiobook for it just went live last night. The book doesn't come out for a week, but the audiobook is live right now, so you can get that on Audible.
Okay. I'm 100% picking that up. I'm like addicted to audio. So.
Yeah. And that'd be another thing too, is I never branched into audiobooks before. I thought it was, if I want to get the audiobook, that's going to cost me $1,800 at the end. And no, you can get it done for free.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Beyond the scope
cool.
of this conversation, but yeah, so that is live. Exactly. So my other books are a dark, epic sword and sorcery fantasy trilogy with some time travel. I have the prequel, dark fantasy prequel that's the one I did for NaNoWriMo a couple of years ago, and then I have a book of short stories that are like actually short. They're 2 to 6 pages long, fantasy, contemporary fiction, murder mystery. I've got it's an homage to my squirrel brain, and I can't really focus on anything. So,
so guys, if you want to find Jamie, I just Google Jamie Samland on Amazon, and you can find all of his stuff. If you want to see kind of what we did with the latest book, if you want to really learn about story structure and pay attention to how that book is structured, if you have an Audible account, guys, you get a free book every month with Audible. Pick up Jamie's book. It's a no-brainer. And grab some of his other stuff on Amazon as well. If you guys would also be curious about having some help with your book, some support so that you can learn the same repeatable system that Jamie is using for his novels to stay on track, finish them, publish them as well, just say yes, please, in the comments. I'll make sure I reach out after the class, maybe tomorrow. I got to go get some rest now. We'll send you a message. We can hop on a short call together, just have a chat about what you're trying to write. And if it seems like we might be a good fit, then I'll see if I can help you get similar results to what Jamie has. Jamie, awesome to have you on once again.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Cheers. All right. We'll catch up soon. And bye for now, guys.